If you're a bicyclist or simply enjoy travel adventures, the Central Indiana Bicycling Association Lecture Series might be of interest to you. The series continues with monthly programs at Central Library through April. Joe Heddle is with CIBA, the Central Indiana Bicycling Association, and he's here to talk about the rest of the series.
Good morning.
Joe, thank you for joining us. What makes this series so popular? I think you and I determined this goes back to like the mid-90s.
This series started in the late 90s, early 2000s. A gentleman by the name of Warren Smock, who was an avid cyclist within the city, started the series. And it gave cyclists something to do during the 4 cold months of the year when we probably wouldn't be able to ride.
That's right.
And we had a chance to see our friends and socialize with them and tell stories.
And I mentioned at the outset that it's not only for cyclists, but if you enjoy travelogues and travel adventures, this series is of interest to a general population.
Absolutely. One of the series we're not going to talk about necessarily tonight was the one this month, which toured India, and we had a number of people from the India American Association who came to visit the presentation.
Fascinating. Well, the next program will be on Wednesday, February 17th at 7 p.m. at Central Library, and it will feature a presentation on the boom in bicycle travel. What about this program?
This is brought on by, we called in the Adventure Cycling Association's Executive Director, Jim Sayer. And he is a wonderful speaker. We had him here 7 years ago. He spoke for 2 hours without a script, and the library had to start blinking the lights to get him to stop to go home. He will talk about the cycling boom in America, whether it's commuting to and from work, weekend cycling, or the big thing with adventure cycling is bicycling vacations and travel. Where you put the panniers, i.e. saddlebags, on the back of your bike, and you go off for a week, or even a weekend on your own and travel. And it's a booming, booming part of cycling.
Now, what about here in Indianapolis? Are you noticing an increased popularity in cycling here locally?
I think so, and I think we kind of divide the cycling community into several groups. You've got the enthusiasts who want to go out and go fast on Saturdays and Sundays and sort of look like a Lance Armstrong type person. You've got the people like me who are getting a little age on them and a little girth and want to ride a little slower and enjoy the community and the cycling. You have those who live in the city themselves, and cycling is their only mode of transportation. And then you have the bicycling commuters, the people who live in the suburbs but ride into the city 1 or 5 days a week to go to work.
And people that we still see in the wintertime cycling.
Absolutely, in the wintertime as well.
Well, the next program, we talked about the February 17th program at 7 p.m. at Central Library, talking about a popular speaker in March. On March 16th at 7 p.m., Willie Weir.
Willie Weir is a cyclist extraordinaire. Willie and his wife, Kat, travel 5 to 7 months a year around the world by bicycle. And then they spend the next 6 months out of the year, 5 months out of the year, doing lectures, writing articles. He has a program on NPR. He writes for Adventure Cycling, and he's also an actor. And when he comes to town, we literally fill the 350-seat auditorium at the Central Library.
That's fantastic. And his program will focus on what specifically?
His program this year is interesting because we talked about the different styles of cycling. And right now, Willie is touring in Hawaii. He and his wife are touring over there. This year, they did a different kind of tour. They said, let's do urban tours. So they went to Portland, Minneapolis, and Toronto. And they rode bicycles fully loaded with their panniers, and they found churches that would let them camp in the yard. They found people who would let them stay at their homes, and they explored the city for 5 or 6 days by bicycle. And his point is, why don't we all do that in our own town?
So don't miss Willie Weir on March 16th at 7 p.m. Final program in this year's lecture series at Central Library on April 20th at 7 p.m. with a program described as a journey of the body, mind, and spirit. What in the world is this?
This is one of my favorite. There's an organization out of Bloomington, Indiana called DCycles. And it's an organization that takes children and young adults ages 13 to 22 years old, and they go on a bicycle adventure every year. They train for 2 or 3 months, and for example, last year they rode from Key West to Bloomington, Indiana. And then this year they're going to be talking about the trip they did from Bloomington to Nova Scotia. So these are 6-week-long tours. The kids, these are, again, 13 to 22-year-olds who are not necessarily cyclists, who ride 80 to 100 miles a day on bicycles.
Wow.
And last year, we had them come speak and tell us about the Key West trip. And the director of the organization wasn't available. I said, so could you send a couple of riders? They sent a couple of riders. They sent a 17-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl.
Fascinating.
And they stood and they talked. And never once did they go, you know what I mean, whatever. They spoke like professionals.
Very polished.
They were very polished,
Wow.
and they got a standing ovation. And they will be back again this year.
Okay, and that's on Wednesday, April 20th at 7 p.m. The other programs again, February 17th and March 16th, both at 7 p.m. at Central Library with the Central Indiana Bicycling Association Lecture Series. And Joe, quickly, contact information for CIBA.
PR@cibaride.org.
Okay, it's a volunteer, membership-oriented organization. We thank you for your participation with the library
You're welcome.
in another season. Check out more from the library's website at ndpl.org.